Hello there. Welcome to your IQ test. Please come in, have a seat, make yourself comfortable. I understand this is a very stressful time for you. It's a lot of nerves. No need to worry. Just relax, okay? Okay. So, I've gone through a lot of you guys recently, so I'm just gonna have to ask you a few questions before we get started with the IQ test here. Just to make sure, you did go through our anger enhancement courses, and the courses in regards to how to become a barbarian. Is that correct? Okay. And is this your name? Yes. Okay. Perfect. Wonderful. Wonderful. You are punctual, which is not typical for a barbarian, or at least a wannabe barbarian. So, I'm gonna have to make a little bit of a note of that. The test starts at home, so you have to be living the life of a barbarian to really understand these questions that I'm about to ask you. Okay, so okay. So next we're going to do a little bit of an physical assessment here. The physical assessment is very simple, very, very quick. All I'm going to do is take a quick look at you and see if you have what it takes to be a barbarian, right? So, we want to make sure that your outside is barbarian-like as well as your inside, right? So the IQ test is going to deal with your inside, and I'm going to just inspect your outside. So what I'm really looking for here is some scars. I'm going to look for some nice like sun damage. I want to see muscles, but I want to see muscles that are kind of grotesque in a way, So, if you will, I'm just going to examine you a bit, like so. Yep. Okay. And I'm noticing I do see some sunspots, but they're a little too chic. They're a little too. It's a little too pretty. I don't like that. A barbarian is gruff, right? You want to be gruff. It doesn't matter. So let's just go ahead here, and then I see, okay, you're a little wrinkly. That's good. That's wonderful. Grotesque muscles are a check. I see them right here. Oh, and they feel really strong. That's very, very good. Okay, have raggedy hair. That's very good. I'm seeing everything I really want to see, to be honest. So I am honestly very impressed. Incredibly impressed. So if I just see this here, and then there's a scar over here, and then just okay, yeah, very, very simple. Just making sure we get your outer examination out of the way. It's typically it's not difficult to pass the outer examination. It's really the IQ test part that's going to be a bit of a problem for some people. Okay, so let's just go ahead and get started then. This should be fairly straightforward. This is going to be a typical IQ test. I'm going to ask you a few questions. I'm going to show you a few pictures, some diagrams, and I'm going to need you to determine what the correct answer as a barbarian would be. Correct? You're going to draw upon your experiences as well as these teachings that you had in anger enhancement courses, in your barbarian courses, as well as your club training courses, right? And by club, I do mean a physical club, right? To like clobber someone with. So let's just start here. Okay, so I have some papers. I have the first question for you. So this is just, I'm going to ask you a question, then there's going to be a diagram, then a question, and then a diagram. Okay, it's going to work like that. So the first question. Okay, you ready? Okay, so an intruder enters your home. What do you reach for? A, do you reach for a desk? B, do you reach for a club? C, do you reach for a table? Or D, do you reach for a fridge? Okay, let me repeat the question, because these, this is you really have to think about this. An intruder enters your home. What do you reach for? A desk. B, a club. C, a table. Or D, the fridge. What do you think? Okay. So, I can tell you that it is not the club. You might think it's the club, but it is not the club. So, It's either the desk, the table, or the fridge. Okay. Write that down. Yes, it is, in fact, the fridge. You see, as a barbarian, you need to not be afraid of reaching for the heaviest object to then thwart your enemies with, right? So a desk is, a fairly good option, but desks tend to be flimsy. As a barbarian, you would understand that, a desk could crumble under the weight of your fingers. A table, similarly, depending on the, make of the table, could crumble to dust. And if you, hit your intruder with the table will break, and then, you're left with two halves of a table, and it's really not very helpful. A club tends to be, the go-to for a barbarian, but your club is mainly for outside killing, right? You don't really want to be using that indoors. It's kind of taboo for barbarians. You should have learned that in barbarian class. So the answer is, of course, going to be D, the fridge. The fridge is the heaviest item of these list of items that you can pick up and just smack your enemy with. And, of course, it won't break, with one or two smacks. So you'll be able to then just place it back, be working as intended, and your enemy will be either killed or severely maimed. So that is the correct answer for the first question. Okay, so next I'm going to ask you to identify something here. Okay, so here we have a series of images, right? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a missing 6. So the question here is, what is the missing 6th? This is a sequence starting here, ending here. So we have food, smash, sleep, smash, food, and then what? Okay, I'm going to give you a bit of time to think about this. Just take a look at the images and think about the life of a barbarian. So, yes, this is meat on a stick. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Okay. Okay, so if you want a hint, I would say think about the sequence of how this is laid out, right? So it might be helpful to take this bottom row and in your mind place it in sequence and see if you can figure out what might be missing or what might be next, right? Food, smash, sleep, smash, food, and then what? What do you think? Okay. That's right, it is sleep again. Okay, perfect. You did a fantastic job. Right, so to explain this a little bit, this is a simple sequence. It'll go food, smash, sleep, smash, food, sleep. And then it would be, you write sleep. And it's as simple as that. It really isn't all that complicated. Really the life of a barbarian is not filled with a lot of thinking, a lot of worries. It's really not that complicated. So if you overcomplicate it in your head, then this might not be the life for you. But this kind of thing might have been ironed out in anger enhancement class in particular, because the more angry you are, the less you think. And that should have been something that they really highlighted, right? So that's pretty good, pretty good. So next we're going to go to number 3, and it's going to be a simple question. So, you are lost in a forest. Now, you are lost in a forest. How do you find your way out? A, you phone a friend or you call a friend. B, you cut a path out. C, you hunt. This is your home now. D, you triangulate true north and go from there. Okay, so you are lost in a forest. How do you find your way out? A, call a friend. B, cut a path out. C, you hunt. This is your home now. And D, you triangulate true north. Which one do you think it is? So, I can give you a hint. It is not calling a friend. As everyone knows, barbarians are very lonesome solo creatures. Some barbarians tend to have friends, but those friends tend to put up with a lot of the barbarians' tendencies more than anything. So you don't want to call a friend. You don't want to admit that you're weak and that you need help. And then triangulating true north is also not the right answer. Being a barbarian tends to go by intuition, and triangulating true north, finding out information, using your head in that way, it goes against the ethos of being a barbarian, and it's not really something that we allow, right? I think as soon as you do that, you stop being a barbarian, and a lot of your muscles will end up deflating. You'll lose your sense of rage. You'll learn self-consciousness, and confidence will be completely shot, right? So it's one of those things where you have to be careful, right? Because the power of a barbarian comes from their naivete and denseness in the head, right? So of those things, you have cut a path out and hunt. This is your home now. Which do you think? It might not be what you think it is. It is cut a path out. You see, this is a little bit of a tricky question, because you would think that you would hunt. This is your home now would be the answer for a barbarian, but barbarians are very, very familial creatures. Barbarians are very particular about their territory. So if you are in a forest and you are lost, you are on foreign ground. You're on ground that is not yours, and you either do not want to offend, you want to get back to your own territory. You have things to protect. One of the biggest things about barbarians is protecting. Also, it's killing, but there is some protection involved. So cutting a path out is the most direct way. You would cut every tree you find in a direct single line, and that way not only are you leaving breadcrumbs in the terms of giant tree trunks, you are also causing a little bit of deforestation and figuring out a way forward. You're not going to be lost anymore because you'll know exactly where you were. Does that make sense? Okay, so next we have a series of which do you smash? Okay, so the question is which do you smash? And it's going to be 3 items. Okay, so starting here, we have this, this, and this. A mug, a teddy bear, and a book. Which do you smash? Okay, there's the mug. Now, we have a puzzle, a pan, and a pillow. Which do you smash? The pan. Really, you're seeing a theme here, yes? But now, you have 1, 2, or 3. This person, or a slice of pizza. Which do you smash? The pizza, of course. Yes, so you either go for things that could be weapons. A book is not a weapon. A book is for knowledge, and knowledge makes you weaker. A teddy bear, of course, is too soft, too cuddly. And of course, as a barbarian, if you are seen you can have a teddy bear. You can sleep with a teddy bear. That's totally fine. But if you are seen doing that, then, the perception of you might change, and therefore you might lose some of your barbarianness, and you might end up looking and feeling and being weaker. Your barbarian powers might go away. And then, of course, for this row, it's kind of a similar deal. You want to go with the thing that, is the most direct, violent item. And then when you go to the bottom one here, you don't want to concern yourself with any form of intimacy, or you don't want to kill for no reason, and you don't want to be intimate for no reason, or for any form of reason. So these people are sort of out. And of course, sustenance is incredibly important for a barbarian. Food is probably your first love. So you want to make sure you go for any food item. A pizza might not be the best, but it is tasty. So that is that. And then next we have number 5 in terms of the questions. So, are you ready? Okay. If given the choice, would you choose to live forever? Yes, no, or only if by accident. So, if you are given the choice, would you choose to live forever? A, yes. B, no. C, only by accident. A very simple question, but there is a correct answer for a barbarian here. So what do you think here? What do you think? So this, you must think back to your barbarian classes. The answer here, and I'm going to give it to you now, is no. B. No, you do not want to live forever. A barbarian's choice would be to die in battle. That is what you are born to do, is what you are meant to do, and thus living forever, choosing to live forever, is completely against the ethos of a barbarian. And C, only if by accident, would cause a lot of internal turmoil for a barbarian such as yourself, and for any barbarian. There's going to be a lot of therapy, a lot of conversations. You're going to really struggle with your internal self-perception. And those are the kinds of words and things that a barbarian should not be thinking about. So C is also not the option. B, no, is the answer here. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about one of the lesser known things about a barbarian, is how to critique. Now, barbarians are very rageful, barbarians are very angry, they're very violent, but that doesn't mean you don't appreciate some of the finer things in life, right? And one of the most popular, one of the most influential pieces of art that barbarians have come up with is cave paintings, right? So we need you to be able to, when you meet other barbarians and they show you their cave painting work, to be able to critique it in a way that's both constructive and helpful, while also being either praising it or being truthful, right? So we're going to start here. Here is the first cave painting. So, of this cave painting, what would you say is the biggest critique you would have? How would you tell another barbarian how to make this better in a constructive, critical way? Okay, there is wrong answers, but there can be multiple right answers. So what do you think? Okay. Let me write that down. Right, so some incorrect answers would be critiquing the color, because barbarians are only really using colors that come from berries, or colors that come from natural sources, so they don't have a lot of options. So critiquing the colors would end up in a failure. Also critiquing Angularity and sharpness would be incorrect. Barbarians love sharpness. They love angular things, hard edges. It's something that you should not be critiquing. Critiquing scale is also not really good because the bigger the better. However, things that would be good to critique would be, the difference in size or the angles of things, right? So a good critique would be that the spear is not pointing at the creature, or that, the arm is kind of going up away from the creature, right? Or maybe that this person is too tall. Simple things that, and being too tall, that's a little close to it being too big and critiquing the size, but it's really in comparison to the creature, right? So then we also have this here. This is the second cave painting. So what I want you to do with this cave painting is take a good look at it, and I want you to tell me how would you critique the barbarian's sense of self with this cave painting, right? So if you see this cave painting and you see the barbarian, how would you then critique this, and how would it inform you in regards to the barbarian who did this cave painting? Okay. Okay, very good. Yes, so that barbarian who did that cave painting is very full of themselves, which is a very wonderful quality for a barbarian. So you would be looking up to this barbarian and be incredibly in awe. That is the correct approach. If you wanted to critique it, you can. However, there is a time and place, and thus, it could be seen as disruptive. Okay, so next we have our last question here. You ready? If clubs are made of wood, and wood is made of trees, then can you, as a barbarian, conclude that all trees are clubs? A, yes. B, no. Or C, murder the author of this question. So, again, if clubs are made of wood, and wood is made of trees, then can you conclude that all trees are clubs? A, yes. B, no. C, kill or murder the author of this question. What do you think, based off of all the information you know and how this test has gone so far? Okay. Okay. The answer there is yes. All trees are clubs. Remember, barbarians are not meant to be thinking super hard about things. Once you encounter something that's a bit too intellectual, a bit too heady, you want to just let it wash over you like water off a duck's back, and just, go with yes. You don't want to say no, because that would be too intellectual. And murder for murder's sake, or murder out of anger, simply for annoyance, is not the way of a barbarian. Barbarians are angry, but they're not evil, and they would not murder for no reason, and for petty reasons, right? So that is that. Just making sure to input that. Okay. That concludes the IQ test for you. Your answers were fairly interesting. I don't think that you got everything correct, but I also don't think you got everything incorrect. So I'm going to have to go through some of the questions, talk to the Council of Barbarians, and have them decide how you would, how to proceed here. Now, of course, if you become a barbarian, you'll immediately, transform into barbarian form. That's going to be a bit painful, be a bit of a hard time. You might lose some friends out of either jealousy or, you know, your naturally intimidating aura might, you know, do something about that as well. But it is really, it was really great having you here, and we'll let you know, of course. And we won't send you any mail. We won't write you anything. We know that as a barbarian, you're honestly going to be, you know, we don't want you really reading many things. So instead, we're going to, you know, approach you in your home and, you know, discuss this with you, okay? Okay, so look forward to a visit from us, okay? Okay, then, well, have a good one. Bye-bye.